She let me think I was winning. It's wild how easy it is to confuse affection with loyalty, especially when you're starving for both. I met Emma during my second year of university at a friend's rooftop birthday party in late October. She was standing near the edge, a half-drunk plastic cup in one hand, wearing a burgundy sweater that matched her lipstick. Her laugh rose above the music and chatter, crisp and confident, the kind that made you want to be in on the joke. I didn't even know her name yet, and I was already leaning in. She noticed and smiled. We talked for maybe 20 minutes that night. About nothing, the usual party small talk. Classes, weather, what we were drinking. But something about her felt sharp beneath the softness, like she was measuring me even while pretending not to care. I told myself it was curiosity. Looking back, it was control. By the end of the night, I had her number. And by the end of the week, we were messaging constantly. She wasn't like other girls I'd dated. She wasn't clingy. She didn't play dumb. She never asked what we were or where things were going, which, ironically, made me want her more. It felt like a game where she held the rulebook, and I kept chasing the next move just to stay in it. And every time I caught up, she'd smile like I'd passed some invisible test. She let me think I was winning. That's the part that gets me now. Because from the very beginning, she had all the power. I should have known. There were signs. Tiny, quiet ones at first. Like how she'd keep her phone face down whenever we were together. Or how she always waited just a little too long to text back. Or how she never introduced me to her closest friends, even when we'd been together for months. Still early, she'd say. I like to keep things separate. I wanted to believe that made sense. I needed to believe it made sense. Because being with Emma was like having a spotlight shined on me after years of standing in the dark. I was the guy who got overlooked, who got picked second, who had to prove I was worth staying for. But with her, at least in the beginning, it felt different. She made me feel seen, wanted, even envied. Like I had finally found someone who chose me, not because I was convenient, but because I was what she wanted. But that wasn't the truth. She didn't want me. She wanted the feeling of being wanted. And I was just the easiest source. The first real crack came one night in March at her place. We were watching a movie, something dumb and loud that she insisted I just had to see. Her phone buzzed on the table, lighting up with a message preview before she could flip it over. I saw the name, Nico. I didn't say anything at first. I didn't want to seem insecure. But the next day, I asked, casually, "Who's Nico?" She didn't flinch. "Just a guy from my program. He's hilarious." "Why?" I shrugged. "He messaged you kind of late last night." She smiled like I was being cute. "He's just dramatic. Always texting some dumb meme or story. It's nothing." And I wanted to believe that. So I did. Even when I caught his name popping up again. And again. Different times. Different tones in her voice when she talked about him. I told myself it was harmless. That I was paranoid. That she chose me. But really, I was just too scared to ask the one question I already knew the answer to. What if I was just a placeholder? The first time I saw them together, I felt like the breath had been stolen straight out of my chest. It was finals week, and I was heading into the Student Union Cafe to grab a coffee between classes. I wasn't looking for her. I wasn't even thinking about her until I spotted that burgundy sweater from behind. Her favorite. The one she always wore when she wanted to feel cozy or sexy or both. She was sitting across from Nico, leaning in, laughing. Not the casual, friendly kind of laugh. The leaning forward, touching his wrist, flipping her hair kind of laugh. I stood there, frozen, like some cliché character from a rom-com, the one who walks in at the wrong moment. Except no cheesy soundtrack. No dramatic confrontation. Just silence. Static in my head. The sound of everything I had been clinging to snapping. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did and chose not to react. I turned and walked out. My legs felt numb. Like I wasn't even attached to my own body. Like I was watching myself leave, like a spectator to my own humiliation. I didn't say anything that night. Or the next. I wanted to pretend I hadn't seen it. That it wasn't what it looked like. That if I ignored it hard enough, it might disappear. But it didn't. Because 2 days later, when I finally asked, carefully, almost shyly, who she'd been with at the cafe, her eyes narrowed just a little. "You were spying on me?" That's how she flipped it. Not, "Oh, yeah, we had coffee." Not, "Sorry I didn't mention it." Not even, "It's not what you think." No. She made me the problem. I remember blinking, stunned. "I wasn't spying. I just happened to see you. That's all." She scoffed. "Then why bring it up like it's a big deal?" "Because it looked like more than friends," I said, quieter than I meant to. She crossed her arms. You don't trust me? I don't know. She stared at me. That's a you problem. That phrase stuck in my head long after she left that night. A you problem. Not a betrayal. Not a concern. Just something wrong with me. And slowly, over the next few weeks, she started pulling further away. The text slowed. The replies got colder. The sex became mechanical, if it happened at all. She stopped saying goodnight first. Then she stopped saying it at all. And every time I brought it up, she made it seem like I was being dramatic, needy, obsessed. I started to believe her. Because when someone you love tells you you're the issue often enough, you start to agree. But I wasn't crazy. Because one night, it stopped being subtle. She was drunk when she called me. Not sloppy drunk, calculated drunk. The kind where the words slip out easier, but you still know exactly what you're saying. I don't think this is working anymore, she said, flatly. It was almost midnight. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. What? I'm just tired of always having to explain myself to you. Of you being so in your head about every little thing. Emma, I've been talking to someone else, she said. I didn't cheat, but I could have. And that's the problem. I remember that moment with perfect clarity. I remember the sound of the cars outside my window. I remember the sweat on my palms. I remember how she didn't even sound sorry. You mean Nico? I asked, already knowing. She didn't answer. That was the answer. I didn't cry that night. Not yet. I sat in the dark for hours, numb, thinking about every moment we'd had, every little thing I had ignored, every gut feeling I had shoved down in the name of being secure. And all I could think was, she let me think I was winning. She let me fall, knowing the ground wasn't real. And now? Now she had what she really wanted. And I was left with the silence. The days after the call blurred together. I went through them like a ghost. I still showed up to class, still turned in assignments, still responded to friends like everything was normal. But I wasn't there. Not really. I was somewhere between disbelief and shame. The kind of shame that sticks to your skin like smoke, invisible, but choking. I kept replaying it all in my head. The first night we kissed. The little jokes she used to make that made me feel like I was in on something secret. The way she'd grab my hand in public, just tight enough to let me know I was hers. Had that all been fake? No. That was the worst part. It wasn't fake. It was worse than fake. It was strategic. She made me feel chosen so that I'd never see the moment she stopped choosing me. Because when I look back now, I can see it clearly, how she slowly conditioned me, how she rewarded my silence, how every time I didn't question her, she gave me a little bit more. And every time I did, she pulled away until I learned not to ask. That wasn't love. That was training. A week after the breakup, I saw a picture of them on someone's Instagram story. Nico and Emma, arms around each other, smiling, closer than close. The caption was nothing special, just some generic party line. But the image hit me like a brick. Not because she had moved on, I expected that. Not even because it was him, but because of how at ease she looked. She looked free, like I had been the weight she finally shook off. Like I had been holding her back from her real life, and now she could finally breathe. I remember staring at that image for nearly 10 minutes. I wasn't even crying. I was just hollow. I didn't recognize her. Or maybe, for the first time, I finally did. She reached out one last time, a few weeks later. It was a text. Hey, I hope you're doing okay. I didn't mean for it to hurt like that. Just wanted to check in. That was it. No apology. No ownership. Just enough empathy to make it seem like she cared, but distant enough to avoid responsibility. I didn't respond. Not then. Not ever. Because what do you even say to that? Thanks for pretending to love me until someone better showed up? Or maybe, I hope he breaks your heart the way you broke mine, slowly, quietly, like rust. But I didn't send anything, because I knew that's what she wanted. To stay in my head. To stay the center of the story. So I let the silence do what I couldn't. I let it end things. I'm better now. Not all the way. Not every day. But I don't check her socials anymore. I don't replay conversations. I don't look for her in the faces of strangers or imagine how it would have turned out if I'd just been a little smarter, a little stronger, a little more something. Because it wasn't about me. It never was. She just needed someone to lift her up until she found someone taller. And I made it easy. Because I mistook attention for care, permission for love, and I let her think that was enough. She let me think I was winning, and I let her win. I should have walked away the moment I saw her eyes go dead. But I didn't. I stayed. I always stayed. The morning after I left her house, still wrecked from everything I'd learned, I found myself standing in front of the mirror, shirtless, eyes swollen, and jaw clenched so tight I could hear my own teeth grinding. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was humiliation. A deep, suffocating humiliation I couldn't even fully express because I was still trying to protect her name in front of other people. I should have told everyone. I should have screamed it. But instead, I went silent. I didn't answer her messages. Not even when she wrote, "I just want to talk, please." Not even when she called me 20 times. Not even when she sent a long text that ended with, "You misunderstood everything. I didn't do anything wrong. You're just paranoid." Paranoid. After everything. She still had the gall to call me that. But the worst part? There was still a twisted part of me hoping maybe she was right. A week passed. I didn't leave my apartment. I didn't eat properly. I couldn't listen to music because every song reminded me of her. Either because we shared it once, or because I imagined how she probably had some other guy's head in her lap when she was listening to it now. Then came the photo. A friend of mine sent it to me without comment. Just a single image. It was her and him, sitting together at the same rooftop bar where she and I had celebrated our 1-year anniversary. Her arm was on his shoulder, his hand on her thigh, and she was smiling. That same smile I thought was reserved for me. That disarming, gentle, fake fucking angel smile she wore the first time she told me she loved me. I didn't respond to the message. I didn't call her. I didn't block her either. I just stared at the photo until my screen dimmed. When she finally showed up at my door 2 nights later, I stood behind it for a good 5 minutes without opening. I could hear her breathing, could feel her presence like smoke seeping through the cracks. "Please," she whispered. "Just let me explain. You deserve that." I opened the door, not because I believed her, but because I wanted to see just how far she would go to keep lying to my face. She looked like hell. Messy bun, eyes red, hoodie 3 sizes too big. And yet, even then, there was something calculated in her posture. She stood there like a girl rehearsing sadness, like she knew exactly how much dishevelment would get my sympathy, without fully unraveling the image of poor, misunderstood her. I didn't say anything. She walked in. "I swear to God, I didn't cheat on you," she began, dropping her bag on the floor like she owned the place again. "Nothing ever happened with Ryan while we were together." I raised an eyebrow. "So you waited until we ended for real?" She hesitated. "That's not the point." "No, that's exactly the point," I snapped. She flinched. "Good." Then she sat down on the edge of the couch, folded her hands, and gave me the kind of look you give a child who doesn't understand how the world works. "I didn't love him," she said. "I didn't even like him that way when we were together." "Then why the constant messages? The late-night conversations? The deleting chats? I stopped myself, suddenly aware of how loud I was. "Because you were pulling away," she said suddenly, her voice sharp and accusing. "You were working late, you were distracted, and I felt alone. I needed someone to talk to. That's all it was. You weren't there." She spun it. So smoothly, so effortlessly. I laughed. It was dry, bitter. "You mean to say you lied and cheated emotionally because I had a job? You don't get it." "No, I do. You just don't like that I finally see it." She tried to cry then, but the tears didn't come as fast as she probably expected. She buried her face in her hands, but the sound was hollow. And I realized something in that moment. Something that should have hit me way earlier. She never felt guilty, only caught. She wasn't here to make things right. She was here to make herself feel better, to fix her own narrative, to twist mine until I was the villain in the story she tells other people. I stood up and walked to the kitchen. She followed. "I know I messed up," she said quietly, "but I still love you. That never changed." I turned around slowly. "Do you?" I asked. She nodded. "I do." "Then why him?" Her silence was louder than any confession. When she left that night, she didn't slam the door. She didn't scream. She didn't beg again. She just walked away. And somehow, that made it worse. Because it meant she was done pretending too. But it wasn't the end. Not by a long shot. The real end began when the people around us started taking sides. And her lies started growing fangs. I don't know how she did it so fast, but within 3 days, the narrative had shifted completely. I started getting cold stares from people who once laughed at my jokes. Friends who used to invite me out suddenly became too busy. And when I did see someone from our shared social circle, they looked at me like I was radioactive. Then one of them finally said it. "She said you were controlling." I stared at them, stunned. "Controlling?" "Yeah, that you always accused her of cheating and tried to isolate her from her friends." that you read her messages without permission. It felt like a punch to the gut. She was rewriting everything, and no one even questioned it. I wasn't controlling. I was desperate. Desperate to understand why she always seemed one step away from walking out. Desperate to feel safe with someone who constantly made me doubt my own sanity. But it didn't matter. She was the victim now. She'd mastered the art of selective vulnerability. Cry in the right arms. Whisper half-truths. Omit her own manipulations. Paint me as the toxic one. And because I wasn't the one telling my side, they believed her. One night, I got drunk and made the mistake of messaging her best friend. All I wrote was, "You knew. You watched me fall apart and never said anything." She replied 10 minutes later, "I thought you knew who she was. I thought you were okay with it. You always stayed." That wrecked me. Because she was right. I did stay. Even when the red flags were so bright they practically burned through my eyes. Even when she ghosted me for a weekend and claimed she was having a mental health reset. Even when she flirted with guys in front of me and said I was insecure for noticing. I stayed. Because I thought love meant patience. But she just took that patience and called it permission. 2 months passed. I tried dating again. Met someone nice, funny, kind. But I couldn't stop comparing every little detail. Couldn't shake the weight of betrayal. I'd be mid-conversation and suddenly picture her, with him, doing all the things she used to do with me. And worse, doing it with joy. I told the new girl it wasn't working. She deserved more than a ghost in my bed. Then, out of nowhere, I got a voice note from her. "Hey, I don't know if you'll even listen to this, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. Not because I want you back or anything. Just because I realize I hurt someone who really loved me. And I hate that I let that happen. You were good to me. And I hope you're okay." I stared at the waveform. I listened twice. And then I deleted it. Because she didn't get to say sorry now. Not after letting me drown in silence while she saved her reputation. Not after flipping the narrative, turning me into the villain, and moving on like nothing happened. She let me think I was winning. She let me believe I was the strong one, the loved one, the one she chose. But in the end, I was just another chapter in her story of victimhood. Another name she'd use to justify her next betrayal. But I won't let her be the ending to mine. I'm not healed yet. Maybe I won't be for a while. But I finally see her for who she is. And for once, I'm not making excuses for it. She let me think I was winning. But now? Now I know better. The end.